All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, we definitely want to again send our thoughts to everybody, to all of you listening, to everybody out here that's dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. We all hope and praying and wishing that this shall pass and we can all get back to leading our normal lives. I know right now we're all trying to hunker down and we hear stories that relief is coming, the worst is yet to come before we have better news. So we don't know. We're just dealing with this thing day by day. It does seem that daily the news gets worse and worse about this virus that's going around. So we're all going to just deal with this and hopefully this shall pass. We come on a very somber note. Boxing lost a true warrior, a person who definitely lived a boxer's life and was defined by the great sport of boxing, and that's Roger Black Mamba Mayweather, the younger brother of Floyd Mayweather Sr. and the older brother of Roger Mayweather, but you all know him famously as the trainer of the great Floyd Money Mayweather or Floyd Mayweather Jr. Roger Mamba Mayweather was 58 years old at the time of passing. Of course, we want to talk about his greatness as a fighter as well as a trainer. So his career, Roger Mayweather has 72 fights, 59 wins, 35 big wins by KO, and 13 losses. Now, we want to go into some very notable wins about Roger Mayweather, and he was a very, very good fighter. He earned the nickname of being the Mexican Assassin for defeating a lot of Mexican fighters. And he won the WBA, the Ring, and the Lineal Super Featherweight titles by beating Samuel Serrano by TKO victory in the 8th round, January 1983 in Puerto Rico. Another notable fight in his career was when he lost the title to one Rocky Lockridge by KO in the first round, which was an upset, February 26, 1984. Now, if you all don't know who Rocky Lockridge is, if you guys watch Intervention, or you guys can Google this or go on your gift, just Google the best cry ever. And this particular show on Intervention, he was homeless. Rocky Lockridge was on drugs. He was homeless, obviously estranged from his family. His son wanted to talk to him, and he let out a loud cry and a loud yell that's known across the web as the best cry ever. So that's who Floyd Mayweather lost to, and Rocky Lockridge won his first title by beating Floyd Mayweather in the first round. Other notable fights in his career was the great Julio Cesar Chavez, lost to him by TKO in the second round, July of 1985. Lost to Frankie Pendleton by KO in the 6th round, March of 1986. Lost to the late Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker by unanimous decision, March of 1987, which was actually a very exciting fight if you go back and watch it. Sweet Pea dropped Roger Mayweather in the first round. In the 9th round, then Mayweather dropped Whitaker. Definitely a dominating victory for Pernell Whitaker, but Roger Mayweather he hung in there and did not give up until the very end. He defeated Vinny Pazienza, the Tasmanian Devil, November of 1988. Lost again in the rematch to Julio Cesar Chavez in the 10th round. He lost the WBC light welterweight title. He lost to Rafael Pineda TKO in the 9th round, December of 1991, and had a DQ victory over Livingston Bramble in March of 1993. Now, if you guys want to know who Livingston Bramble is, another solid fighter, known for wearing a snake around his neck, practicing witchcraft, and he did not deny practicing witchcraft, for he wore a snake around his neck going into the ring. And if you guys go back and watch the Rocky Balboa movie featuring Antonio Tarver as Mason the Lion Dixon. You're going to see during the scenes where Rocky is training for the fight, as well as Mason the Lion Dixon, real life Antonio Tarver, former light heavyweight champion. That scene where Tarver is training, you're going to see a guy holding the pads who has dreadlocks that are kind of tied in an upward ponytail. That's Livingstone Bramble. So definitely Roger Mayweather fought a bunch of May guys during his fighting career. He also fought Costa Tszyu in June of 1995, losing by unanimous decision. The same Costa Tszyu who lost to Ricky Hatton, who his nephew Floyd beat Ricky Hatton in December of 2007. So definitely fought a good roster of guys. In his last fight in May of 1999, beat Javier Francisco Mendez by majority decision. And of course, this is around the same time that Floyd was starting to come into his own as a Floyd Jr. He was coming to his own as a professional fighter. What I think most of my fondest memories of Roger Mayweather was really that HBO 24/7 was really put Floyd on the map. Of course, that fight versus Oscar De La Hoya is what made Floyd known to more mainstream fans. Us hardcore fans knew about Floyd, watched him through the years with the Diego Corrales fights, the Victoriano Sosas, the Philip Endos. So we watched those fights on HBO. Eventually, the Arturo Gatti fight made him more popular to mainstream fans, but the Oscar De La Hoya fight in May of 2007 really put him on the map, and that show, HBO 24/7, was a vehicle to really launch Floyd to the, I would say, superstar status. Now, the reason why I bring up Roger Mayweather, he was as influential as well as Floyd Sr., but his personality showed on the show with his seemingly insulted by people who did not know boxing history. And he had a famous term, a person doesn't know shit about boxing. And to me, I've always admired him about that because that's something that he gave his life to. His brother was a fighter, he was a fighter, his nephew was a fighter, as well as, and we forget, Jeff Mayweather was a fighter as well as a solid trainer. So clearly, Roger definitely took pride in his craft. He lived and breathed and died the sport. Clearly, him training Floyd was something that gave him happiness, and it obviously kept him in shape with the type of manic training that Floyd did. And I noticed clips on YouTube right now. Ladies and gentlemen, go back and watch the clips of Roger holding the mitts for Floyd, and it's just a thing of beauty. If you wonder why Floyd Mayweather is the best fighter of his generation, as well as maybe the top 5, I would even say top 3 fighter pound for pound, some can make an argument the best ever, is that the way Floyd trains, and that those focus mitts drills that they were doing really was, when he used the term poetry in motion, I feel that term kind of gets overused, but that really was poetry in motion. It was a thing of beauty. You couldn't explain it. That's something that everybody cannot do. The timing, the rhythm, the stamina to do those drills. That's why Floyd Mayweather was Floyd Mayweather, on top of the other intangibles, the hard work, the training, the dedication on the craft, but that was also because of Roger Mayweather. Now, Floyd's offensive game plan was from his uncle. Roger Mayweather had a dynamite right hand, was known as a good right hand puncher, and clearly had knockout power in his right hand. So Floyd's offense came from the uncle. His defense came from Floyd Sr. And Roger made no bones about who he was. He was who he was. And if you go back and watch it 24/7, he was he was getting on people by asking who had the most heavyweight title defenses, and people were taking it. He was taking it personal when people couldn't answer that particular question. And I remember he asked Eddie Murphy that question on the show, and Eddie Murphy answered it. But even Eddie Murphy said he watched the previous edition of HBO 24/7 to answer the question correctly, because he didn't want to get ribbed by Roger Mayweather. So definitely was a damn good trainer. Of course, the biggest moment with him is the fight versus Zab Judah, when Floyd is really starting to pull away from Zab. He has neutralized and nullified all of Zab's offense. Zab went back to the street in Brooklyn, hit Floyd with a blatant low blow that comes with a punch behind the head. Floyd then limps off into the corner. The referee stops the fight. Roger Mayweather then jumps in the ring, confronts Zab Judah. Zab Judah's father, Yoel Judah, who was a 6 or 8-time world kickboxing champion, he jumps in the ring, steals on Roger Mayweather, throws a punch. The next thing you know, you see a big old brawl break out in the ring. Zab Judah rushes Roger Mayweather. Roger Mayweather is then disqualified from ringside for jumping into the ring. And of course, during the confusion, Floyd is standing off in the corner. He goes back at the end of the 10th round. He looks, he asks, "Where's Roger?" And then his old trainer, and I forget the Hispanic guy's name, he also passed away as well. He tells him, hey, they threw Roger out. So you had in the last 2 rounds of a very tough fight, even though Floyd was pulling away, but you had Floyd's cut man and Leonard Ellaby was trying to give Floyd advice, in the corner. And of course, luckily they happen to have one of the best fighters of all time, so they really didn't even get that much advice considering it happened so late in the action. And Floyd already had the fight in the bag. So it's kind of interesting. You saw the drop-off in boxing knowledge. I noticed there was other times in certain fights in between rounds where Leonard Ellaby would try to give boxing advice, and he clearly just doesn't have it like a Roger does. So even though a lot of people say, well, Roger was a great trainer, but Floyd was on another level, but Roger clearly had Floyd's respect. And I noticed, again, that there were times where Leonard Ellaby would try to speak in the corner, and Roger would shut that down and give Floyd advice. You could tell that Leonard Ellaby would really have nothing to say because there's nothing that he could counter because he's never been in a foxhole like Roger Mayweather has. So definitely, I used to enjoy watching that about Roger Mayweather. It's good to see him and his brother somewhat reconciled because I think during a time where there was a rift between Floyd Sr. and Floyd Jr., Roger was kind of caught in the middle, being the nephew's trainer and being estranged from his brother where they had their situation. The infamous 24/7 episode where Floyd Sr. and Jr., where they got into it, Roger jumped in there, kind of pulled Floyd away, told Floyd, hey, you said what you had to say and just leave it alone. And even Roger, he understood his place that that's my nephew, I'm his trainer, but Floyd Sr. is his father. So there was always kind of, even Roger knew that he kind of knew where he stood. And as Roger's health started to deteriorate, we know he had the sarcoidosis, he was coughing a lot, and you saw that a lot of the documentaries that his health was starting to deteriorate, where he wasn't as fast as he wasn't as sharp as he was. And I remember watching a documentary where there was at some banquet in Las Vegas, and he was being honored, and I'm talking about Roger Mayweather, and he had to be helped down the stage. It was very, sad to see, but I think even Floyd knew that his health was deteriorating. And a very poignant moment was in one of those 24/7 shows. I think Floyd was driving somewhere late and Roger fell asleep in the car, and you really heard the touching words that Floyd had for Roger Mayweather. So there was a true respect and a true love there. Floyd clearly loves his mother, his grandmother. He loves his father. The rifts and the arguments be damned, but he truly had an appreciation for Roger Mayweather, and he loved his uncle. And I will not forget that episode where Floyd was talking to his uncle, but his uncle was asleep, and he had some very nice words for his uncle, and definitely showed Floyd's sensitive side with that. So definitely a major loss, and to the Mayweather family, you all have my deepest condolences on the loss of Roger. I know, of course, Floyd not fighting anymore. You don't get to see Roger. And I think as Roger's health started to deteriorate, I think that's when Floyd had his dad training him. I think a part of that was a combination of Roger's health deteriorating, and I believe the Miguel Cotto fight where Floyd, even though he clearly won the fight, but he took a little bit more punishment than what he's accustomed to. Then when he got back with his dad made him a better defensive fighter. And to be honest with you, after that Cotto fight, I believe there was the Robert Guerrero fight, the Canelo fight, the Marcos Maidana fight, the Andre Berto fight, the Pacquiao fight, and, well, we could throw in the Conor McGregor fight. But those fights, Floyd was pretty much untouchable. And if Marcos Maidana really didn't fight a dirty fight, he really was going to touch Floyd Mayweather. So clearly, Floyd saw a need to improve his defense after the Cotto fight, where he had a bloody nose and he took some punishment. Roger still kind of took a back seat. He still was a second person. He let Floyd Sr. take over the training duties, which is what Floyd wanted to kind of end Floyd's career with. So Roger was always respected. I do always wonder the next great Mayweather would have been Roger's son. I believe his name was Lakai Mayweather. For he already had the motions down packed with hitting the pads, but of course, who knows if he decided to go into the family business. Definitely, clearly, it's in the blood where his dad, his uncle, his cousin, granduncle, all of them were involved in the sport. So I've always said that if there was to be a next Mayweather later on down the line, it would have been Roger's son, Lakai Mayweather. So, and he was a little boy back then in 2007. So to the young man, again, the Mayweathers, his immediate family, his children, extending to his brothers and Floyd, his nephew, and all the Mayweathers. Here from Chin Check Radio, you have our deepest condolences on the loss of the Black Mamba. He definitely will be missed, and we definitely hope that through only time that your wounds can heal. But here at Chin Check Radio, we definitely want to keep his legacy alive and will never forget the Black Mamba. You rest in peace, champ.